The world has been turned on its head. On Saturday in central London, the Metropolitan Police arrested 32 people opposed to Israel's genocidal extermination of the Palestinian people. What did these people do, you may ask? Did they attack someone? Did they riot? Did they try and blow up the House of Commons or something? No. In a protest organised by Defend Our Juries, they sat holding placards with the words, "I oppose genocide, I support Palestine action." Nearly half of those arrested were over 60. Nearly 100 of them were in their 70s and 15 were in their 80s. To put all this in context, in the poll tax riot of 1990, just 339 people were arrested after violence, it must be said, which was provoked by the police, in which 113 people were injured. One of those arrested was a disabled blind man. We can see an elderly woman here being put into a police van. This comes after the government banned Palestine Action, prescribing it as a terrorist organisation on a level playing field with ISIS and Al-Qaeda. That means anyone who expresses support for Palestine Action faces a jail sentence of up to 14 years. The banning of Palestine Action, prescribed as a terrorist organisation, came after Palestine Action activists threw some red paint at 2 military airplanes. That's what's regarded as a obscene crime in this country, for which you are prescribed as a terrorist organisation, and anyone who says anything in support of you can go to prison for up to 14 years. The world really has just been turned on its head. If you oppose the genocidal extermination of innocent people, you face being locked up for up to 14 years. But you see, if you're a British politician who arms and facilitates genocide, then you're treated as a statesman. Well, it's my honest opinion that one day the tables will be turned and the Genocide Convention of 1948 will be enforced. That was made British law in 1970 and it criminalises complicity in genocide. The Genocide Convention also imposes a legal obligation on governments to prevent genocide taking place in 2014, which bans selling arms and weapons which would be used in the commission of genocide, crimes against humanity, or war crimes. That specifically includes supplying components for fighter aircraft, such as the crucial components which Britain provides Israel, the F-35 jets, which are raining death and destruction on the people of Gaza as part of Israel's genocide. Now, to talk about this absolute monstrous injustice, I spoke to Huda Ammori, who is the co-founder of Palestine Action. So let's just start with Saturday. Mass arrests, hundreds of people, 200 more than were arrested during the poll tax riots of 1990. Around half of them were over 60. I want to hear your thoughts on what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think a range of emotions, really. It's really moving. I can't underestimate that, to see so many people. And even though there were hundreds arrested, there were actually hundreds more who also took part and weren't arrested. But just to see so many people coming out against the prescription, putting themselves on the line. It's no small feat. We're talking about charges under the Terrorism Act. I mean, it's completely unprecedented. But I think just seeing how many people are willing to come out and oppose this and stand up for what they believe in, stand up for freedom of speech, stand up for our civil liberties, stand up for the Palestinian people and oppose the prescription is incredible. And it just shows how much the Home Secretary has overreached, overstepped, and I don't think she saw what could happen as a result of this prescription. I think that was a massive oversight to not realise that prescribing a direct action group, a domestic direct action group, which many people have watched for years, shutting down Israeli weapons factories, is going to spark outrage. And now we have hundreds and hundreds of people coming out to oppose this. But at the same time, it's also disturbing. It's very draconian. It's very dystopian to see people holding cardboard signs, 7 words on a cardboard sign, and that's enough to warrant arrest. And the police willing to use all those resources in order to arrest each and every one of them that they managed to. There were hundreds that they didn't. In order to enforce this ban, it's completely politically motivated. The arrests, we can see that the state is in a very tricky position now, which is because of those people putting their liberty on the line, where it's becoming more and more untenable to maintain this prescription.
I asked a police officer on my way out from Whitehall how many pensioners he'd arrested for opposing genocide. He wasn't very impressed. He said, I'm busy. Well, they were busy. That was the point. They were busy arresting a lot of pensioners who opposed genocide, as it turns out. So the Home Secretary prescribed Palestine Action a few weeks ago, putting it legally on the same level as ISIS, Al-Qaeda and so on, and neo-Nazi groups, with up to 14 years in prison for supporting the group. So that just puts into context the potential sacrifice people are willing to. Where do you think stand with the legal case? Because there was actually a victory. So I just want you to tell us about that. Update us on was a good development and what that all means for legal case.
Yeah, so on the 21st of July, we applied for permission to judicial review the decision to prescribe Palestine Action, and that was successful. So basically the court is saying it's arguable that the prescription order is unlawful on two grounds, one of which is that it's disproportionate with freedom of expression and assembly, which we can literally see play out in real time. I mean, it's not just the hundreds getting arrested at Parliament Square, it's also those people being wrongfully stopped by police, harassed for having Palestine flags, Palestine badges, signs which just happen to have the words Action and Palestine in, etc. The list goes on. And then the second ground is that the Home Secretary failed to consult Palestine Action, which is actually really important when you consider the fact that she had consulted with pro-Israel lobby groups, that ministers had met with Elbit Systems. Lord Dannett was also involved on behalf of Teledyne, an American weapons factory which supplies Israel from its UK factories, and the Israeli government, etc. But they didn't consult a single human rights organization or Palestine Action itself. And maybe if they had, they would have realized what a huge mistake it would be and the huge fallout that would come of it. But they had a complete disregard for the consequences of people in Britain. It seems that their main priority was protecting the profits of Israeli weapons factories. But what it means essentially is that because we got the judicial review granted, it means that if we are successful in the challenge, the order would have been unlawful from its very inception. So all subsequent arrests would also be unlawful. The state wanted us to go down POAC, which is this statutory route that was designed for prescribed organisations, which is a very lengthy process and completely inappropriate in this case. And the legal consequences for people who've been arrested between prescription and POAC, having finished, is very murky. So a huge part of why they granted the judicial review was the amount of people that this would affect and their right to know before they go to the criminal courts whether this was lawful or unlawful in the first place.
One of the things that the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, has said is that there are, as well as the public case they've made, that there are national security, or there's other aspects they can't go into for national security reasons, hinting at foreign involvement of some description, Iran, that kind of thing. And that's been amplified by BBC journalists like Laura Kuennersberg, and also today Alex Davies-Jones. So she did the same, went through, in terms of property damage, redefining that obviously as terrorism, and then said that there were other reasons that she couldn't go into for national security reasons. Maybe there's national security reasons go to another schools who we don't know them. What do you think about all of this? This kind of, basically, well, you might think that this is ridiculous, why we've banned this organisation of terrorists, but there are some reasons that we can't go into because they're national security reasons we can't. What do you think about it? What's your response to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just ridiculous, and it's quite crazy to see how far they're willing. It's not that surprising, but it's quite something to see how far they're willing to go. And this all really got to its height last week when they were trying to discourage people from joining the protest. Obviously, that did not succeed at all. But they keep referring to secret evidence, and there is in the what's interesting is in the legal case, we, myself as the claimant and our legal team, have the right to see a lot of evidence, open evidence, they call it. And there is some close evidence that we can't see. However, she made mention, the Home Secretary, to what could be in there, and she didn't make mention of that in the legal case. So you're saying, so you didn't actually, you're willing to say this stuff on national TV rather than to the court, which you should have done weeks before when we had the permission hearing for the judicial review. And, you know, I've been in Palestine Action for 5 years. I founded the group, right? There is no huge surprise. But people have watched Palestine Action for years and years shut down weapons factories, target Elbit Systems, target associated firms. The people know exactly what Palestine Action is about. And the state, you know, when I hear things like the secret evidence, my mother's family are Iraqi. All of my mum's family live in Iraq. They lived through the war in Iraq. That was based on secret evidence of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and look at the consequences that happened there. So I think really people have to take this with a pinch of salt, and people have. And you can see through what they're doing here, which is trying to uphold the position that they took in the face of a lot of scrutiny, a lot of pushback from the people. And just to touch on this Iranian funding thing, I mean, it's just so ridiculous, right? And it's even come out in the legal case that the MI5 assessment said that we raise money through the website and through selling T-shirts. So unless they've got loads of Iranian proxies buying T-shirts at our local events, then, you know, I don't know where they've got this idea from. But they leaked it to the Times, the Home Office, and then just before the prescription went through, before the vote. After the vote went through, after the prescription was enforced, then they told the private eye that they didn't recognise that claim. So after you've done the damage, you've made the insinuation, you pose the question, then you retract to save your own skin. But the damage has been done at that point. So it's really dirty tricks. And, you know, she's abusing her position of power, Yvette Cooper, and these ministers, I mean, I don't think half of them know what they're talking about half the time.
No, they're malign and stupid, a lot of them. Let's just say it as it is. Just Elbit Systems. There's kind of a development with Elbit Systems, and I think kind of hints at, well, I mean, it's not a secret reason for the prescription of Palestine Action, but I think it does sum up what law often exists to do in practice, which is not about justice, but about something else. So just explain what's happened.
So Elbit Systems released their accounts up to the end of 2024, and they reported a loss of millions, which is the first time they've had a loss since 2012. So this is really significant. Just a few years ago, they were having profits of tens of millions. So it just goes to show that what Palestine Action was doing in terms of impacting Elbit can be shown through the actual, you know, accounts, the profits of these companies, and also what was behind the prescription, the motivation behind it, which was to protect the profits of foreign weapons manufacturers who are making weapons which are tested on Palestinians and used to commit genocide. That is the clear and only purpose that this serves. It doesn't serve the British people. In fact, it's the British people who are getting arrested in their hundreds for holding a cardboard sign. For what? To protect an Israeli weapons factory?
It's an interesting point, that, actually, isn't it? Because this is technically justified on the grounds it's defending British citizens, but the net result is hundreds of British citizens, their lives being turned upside down. I mean, just on that, finally, I mean, just in terms of taking the kind of, it should not just be a grand historical view, it should obviously be the view of today, but, you know, we watched a blind disabled man be arrested. The legal grounds are that this man is an alleged serious, dangerous terrorist threat. I mean, that's what he's being arrested for. That's the basis of the arrest. That these are danger. I mean, I'm not just saying, you know, I know I'm talking a lot about pensioners here. There are younger people too who've made huge sacrifices, but, you know, it does bring it into sharp relief when you've got in their 80s being taken away and put in police vans as though they're dangerous terrorist extremists. Whilst at the same time, British politicians are providing weapons in violation of international law, both the Genocide Convention of 1948, which was legislated by Britain in 1970, and the Arms Trade Treaty, for example, 2014, which prohibits providing crucial components for to the aircraft of a country where there are obviously very strong reasons to believe they're committing war crimes and genocide, and obviously that applies here. But they're not being arrested. They're being treated as statesmen. They have huge salaries, limousines being, they're taken around in limousines, living a life of luxury, whilst pensioners being locked up as dangerous extremists. It's just the world turned on its head.
Well, exactly. I mean, it's quite something to see when those, as you say, those who are holding up cardboard signs, pensioners, people of all different backgrounds, disabled people, are the ones being arrested. And, the police are pulling out a lot of resources to arrest all of these people. Yet there's been no consequences for the ministers enabling this genocide, no consequences for the companies who are arming the genocide. We're talking about the mass murder of Palestinians, the starvation of Palestinians, and it just shows how little the value of Palestinian lives is treated by the British state. It's the property of weapons factories which is prioritized, whilst they can get away with murder and face no consequence at all. It is completely upside down, and I think that's why you're seeing so many people coming out, and I'm sure there'll be more to come, because when there's such a grave injustice, then we have no other option but to fight it. Otherwise, what is left of humanity? It takes people coming out, putting themselves on the line. They shouldn't need to do that. They shouldn't have to face arrest under the Terrorism Act. But the world is so upside down, and we have to do everything we can to restore justice.
Amen to that. And it's so screamed how this is understood by history. But of course, we can't just wait for the judgment of history. We have to keep fighting to stop a genocide, and also to fight for those who have facilitated genocide to face actual justice. Huge kudos as ever, and huge solidarity. So everyone, share the video, press like and subscribe, and leave comments. Good for getting people, the algorithm, so people share and listen to Huda. And this is obviously so important, and we'll keep talking about it. But honestly, thank you so much.
Thank you.